Hey, everybody. Welcome to another amazing episode of Success Nonetheless. We have a legend in the building. I'm calling him legend up front. He's Grammy nominated. I mean, when I first heard his music, I was in my car. I mean, I had to have his music on repeat. It's one of those classic voice, classic albums. I mean, it's not fly by night at all. So I definitely have to have him on the show today. Please welcome LA's very own. And his music you're definitely going to love and just want to stay on repeat. Please, Mr. Kenyon Dixon. How are you?
I'm amazing. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I don't want to tell about your background. So can you tell people
I
a little
got you.
bit about yourself and then where you are now?
I'm from LA, Watts specifically, born and raised in the Jordan Downs projects. So like the east side of LA, South Central. So, yeah, I grew up there. Kind of grew up in the arts in general, not necessarily singing as an interest. I could always sing. My parents are both, like all of my siblings are musically inclined. My pops, he was a guitarist, quartet singer. My mother, she sang. So I was the youngest of 7 in total. So you can imagine, I was trying to find everything to do but music because they all could, everybody could do it. And so I got into dance and musical theater. I played like every sport possible. Just kind of purposely tried to stay away from music. And when I became like a senior in high school, that was kind of that turning point for me where I kind of knew like I should be singing and doing music. And so from then I went on to tour as a backing vocalist. Started off kind of with Tyrese, then toured with everybody from Justin Timberlake to Faith Evans to Nick Jonas, Kelly Rowland, Jill Scott, Kirk Franklin. Just like a big melting pot of artists that I got a chance to learn from and really just take in some greatness. And I took all of that energy and redirected it into, fully going into my artistry. I started off producing my own music. It was something that, it was an elective actually that I took in high school, electronic music. And I didn't know that, it was going to come in handy. I was just taking it because I like music, and the electives I wanted were no longer available. And so here I am, like 10 plus years past that, and still writing my own music, producing a good majority of it. And yeah, that's the short spiel of who I am.
Wow. I mean, 10 years and you have all these accolades and people don't even get to see a smidgen of that. So I salute to you for pushing hard and just getting it done. So I gotta ask you, were your family and friends, were they supportive in the beginning?
So my siblings were supportive because none of us were supposed to be doing what we were doing. So I think that for us, it was like we got each other. My parents, not so much. I grew up in a strict Christian household, like born and raised in the Kojic church. And so my mother, who is still a district evangelist to this day, if you know anything about just those households, like we couldn't do secular music at all. I couldn't watch the videos. I couldn't listen. So I had like a lady, Jacqueline Sims, who became my godmother over in Watts, where I grew up. And my mother kind of delegated her as the one to be able to take me to do, all of the things that were outside of the church, because she was the one that introduced me, to the professional world of entertainment. She saw something in me early on, like in the projects, and was like, I have some friends I want to introduce you to who owned a professional studio. She was like, I think it's something that that you should look into, like, beyond just this environment. And so once I started getting involved in that, my mother kind of left it up to her to be the one to kind of take me around and work with me in that space. And but now as an adult, like in the last couple of years, my mother, she's been able to like be really supportive of what I'm doing. She comes to my shows as often as she can. And so it's just really cool to be able to have her there, because she's a huge part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. So
But do
yeah.
you think for most people, like the money and the stuff got to start rolling in for people to like feel like it's real and it's not like just some thing?
I think that can be the case with some family. When it comes down to the church upbringing, especially Kojic, they don't care about that. It's more so like strict religious practices. And I think that that's the biggest thing that you're fighting against, the fact that we're told that we shouldn't be doing any of these things. So I think that that's all it was for my mother. Like, we've always been able to get the things that we need. So I think for her, it was just more so, she was very heavy in the church, like prominent figure in the church. So, she just wanted to stick to that.
So I got to ask you, how did you prepare yourself, to be in position? Because I'm sure people ask you for advice and things all the time. And I'm a huge believer that if you're not mentally ready, God is not going to present that to you, right? Otherwise, it's not a gift, it's a curse. So can you talk about what was the behind the scenes that you did, the work that you put in order to get yourself where you are right now? And how long did it take?
Still doing it. I think that they're always, as long as you're working, you're growing, and you have the opportunity to elevate. So I think that it takes as long as you're doing it, because I think there's always a new level you can get to. And so even to what you said in the beginning, I think sometimes we still do get it when we're not ready, because it is I don't want to say a test, but an opportunity to make us rise to the occasion, to see if it's something that we really want. It's like a challenge. And so for myself, I think my purpose was really the driver for this. I never felt comfortable until I was doing this. Honestly, I did so many things, but there was always like this like inkling or something that made me feel like I had purpose beyond what I was just doing in those moments. And so that always kind of pushed me to just keep challenging myself and to keep growing. But I'm always a student, so as far as preparation, I studied like a lot of the greats, especially, and I think you should do that. But it's, for some reason, like music is always we make it more subjective than objective, and we decide you can kind of do whatever you want to do in it. But I think if you were going to be a professor to teach math or English, you can't just graduate high school and go straight to teaching in college. There are prerequisites and things that you have to do to literally study and show yourself approved to, to be able to do that stuff. So I've always studied the art. I've studied the greats. We have great examples in R&B. One of my huge examples in R&B soul music in general, Anita Baker. Anita's incredible. Tyrese, who's from my area, there's a lot I learned from him being on tour. Faith, she's a legend. There's a lot I learned from Faith. So I took all of this stuff in working, and I had to understand that one day I wanted to be able to have the careers that they did. So I was smart enough to put any ego aside as far as like what you felt like you were capable of creating, and just learn as a student. So yeah, more learning than anything. That's what kind of prepared me.
Okay. So why should artists focus on songwriting instead of just recording music?
I think there's two sides to that. I think it depends on what your goal is, because some people only want to be songwriters and don't want to record. But as far as artists, I think that the magic of the two together is what really makes it pop, because I think writing quality music that you can relate to is going to make it easier for you to record this stuff, because there's something that you're connecting to, and you can emote and express it correctly. But I think that a good song is really what builds a career, if that's what you choose to do. If you don't just want to chase trends and get a song that lasts for like a certain era because you just wanted the fame and the notoriety, I think songwriting is something to really hone in and focus on if your objective is to create an actual career in music.
Okay. Talk about the importance of having the right team. And how did you choose your team?
So the right team, especially as an independent artist, is very important, because typically your everything falls under your name. When you're signed to a label or anything like that, it's a lot easier to be able to delegate the blame when things go wrong, because you're working with a system that's already been in place, and you typically aren't the first artist to subscribe to that system. But having a team is really important, because collaborative efforts, that's really what life is about in any aspect, even outside of music. Collaborating, people are put here, we need people, and most of what we pray for and most of what we desire almost never comes directly from God. Like, it manifests itself as this like ethereal blessing that just dropped out of the sky. People are always the vessels for what we pray for. So I think that when you think about it in terms of business and wanting to reach goals, having like-minded people around you who you trust with your vision and who really understand it is really important. I did so much of my initial groundwork by myself. I was so used to working, as an independent artist, doing all of this stuff at home. I was tech savvy. I'm writing my own stuff. I was producing my own stuff. Like, so it was a lesson for me as well to learn how to trust the great people that were around me, like to fully trust them, the people that I was working with. And when I did that, I saw the elevation because we were on the same page and able to, just have a mutual respect and understanding of reaching those goals. So I think there are certain places that you can't get without people. And when you understand that, and take advantage of it, not in a manipulative way, but in a way of correctly understanding that you're better when you're working with other people, I think that that's always going to be a pro and a strength.
That's so true. And I think people, especially in our culture, I think people are so scared that the light is going to get stolen from them.
Absolutely.
They laugh too much or they give too much game, and it's just crazy.
100%.
So I got to ask you, how did you push through the noise? I mean, everybody comes to Hollywood, want to be famous, want to sing, act, dance, and do these things. How are you able to push through? And do you feel like you had to work like even 10 times harder, considering that the market is saturated with people who don't make it?
Yeah, I definitely had to work harder, and I'm still having to work harder because you can't control the climate of the industry. And so there are certain interests, and like right now, which is the whole debate about R&B and mainstream versus independent artists. Like, what's being pushed is typically what the mainstream artists are doing, which is not the type of music that the consumers are saying that they want at the forefront. They want the more, the R&B that we know and love. And so to be able to do that, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of patience, because you have to understand it's such a slow burn. Like, it may take you forever to really see the return in what you're investing in the art. And so you have to have like a completely different understanding of what you're doing. You have to be very clear as far as your purpose, because that's going to be your driver. Because more often than not, you're probably going to feel underappreciated and overlooked. You're not going to get the looks that you feel like you deserve for what you're putting into it. But you always have the opportunity to reevaluate, is that what you're in it for? Or you look at it as legacy. And that's how I look at it. I look at it as legacy and career building, because 10, 15 years from now, I'll still be able to do shows off of these same songs that may not have been competitive based on what mainstream was requiring, but this was always the music that matched my goal, which was to be able to do music for the rest of my life.
Wow. What do you have to say to people who are scared to start small? Of course, before these large events and large crowds, you got to start with 2 people and 10 people. So how did you navigate through that?
It's all like work study, honestly. And I came from, starting, I've done the open mics or the gigs, or I may or may not get gas money, and there'll be 10 people there. I've also done the shows where there's 5,000 people and you still didn't get paid. This was all starting off. So it's like understanding that you literally got to start somewhere. And I learned to take those situations for what they were. They were all opportunities for me to, just build my craft and the quality of my craft, so that I could later demand what it was that, I should be getting. So I think the best thing you can do is to just go ahead and start. Because I think when we overanalyze, we get in our own way. Because sometimes we put a lot of limits on ourselves that are not required based on ego and feeling like, well, I should be doing X, Y, and Z. And that's a crazy thought sometimes when you haven't started, because technically you don't have the background to compare things the way that you're comparing it. It's only based off of what's in your head. So I think it's just important to get started. It might be a little rocky, a little rough at first. Like I said, I've done those gigs where it was probably more work than some of the stuff that I've had to do like later in my career. But when I look back at it, I think those are all spaces that serve their purpose. I met people who have helped me later in my career, who, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just a chance to build. So more than anything, I say just get started. Whatever you do, whatever you're thinking about, just do it in motion, because nothing happens when you just, you know, sitting there deliberating.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of those promoters built up that character and that business sense real quick too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh man, so I gotta ask you, also, do you have an ideal collab?
So there's two people I really want to collab with, and they're polar opposite, but Anita Baker's at the top of that list. Okay. And Drake is on the other side of that list. Those are just two people that I really respect. And again, two different extremes, but the legacy and just the legend energy of Anita Baker, like what she has brought, I think that, you know, when we look at our legends, people typically only love the music that we met them with. And it's typically hard to like break newer records from legacy artists. But I think that me and Anita Baker could make something that would translate well in today's climate. I really believe it. And Drake, I think we just have so many similarities as a creative. Like I'm a Cancer, so I emote like crazy. And so I think that whole like lover boy aspect of like R&B and music and being able to be vulnerable, I think that that's a space we would be able to connect and to make great music. I think he understands how to express it correctly, and I feel like I know that too. So I think just two like minds coming together and him just already being dope, I think we can make some dope art.
Okay. Out of everything you've done so far, what's one of the, I guess, most impossible goals that you had and then you made them possible for yourself?
There's two. I think one, by default would have to be a Grammy nomination. That's not even something that I dreamed of. Like it was like out of the frame of dreaming. That's coming from where I'm from. That's just not anything I would have ever thought I would even be around. So I got my first one as an artist last year, and I had two before that as a writer. And one was my very first placement that I ever placed as a writer, which was crazy. So to have those moments, those are very surreal. The second was earlier this year, I headlined my first tour, like my actual first tour. That's something that I didn't imagine happening so quickly. Even as long as I've been doing music, you get so used to being connected to other people, and especially like being a supporting vocalist for a lot of my career. I was so used to like, you know, Kenyon with Jill Scott, Kenyon with Justin Timberlake. And so to not have that stamp of somebody else's name under your stuff is scary, because then everything is a direct reflection of you. And so to finally pull it off and step out, because I had the mindset of like, you can keep having that fear, but realistically it doesn't change until you do something different. So it's like at some point you have to do it. So we finally was like, think we're ready. Talk to the team. We like, let's do the tour. And one of the greatest decisions I could have made in my career, because now I can't go backwards. And that was so amazing. We sold out half of the tour, which is unreal, because, you know, even having like all of these streams and followers, like that doesn't equate to you being interesting enough for people to buy tickets to come to a concert. And that's something that like a lot of people don't know about online presence. Like those followers don't always equal real support. So the fact that mine did and my listeners actually came through, like that was that meant the world to me. And I feel like I owe them to just keep doing exactly what we did.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely don't want to brush up. Mr. Avery Branson, that man literally has sold out shows in the UK. That's a huge.
Avery, what's up, man?
Oh man, that's huge. So and then it must have felt good to control your own show, because you know when you're with people, you got to go by their rules, and you may want the lights a certain way or certain vibe, and That must have felt great too.
That was an amazing feeling, and I love that I was able to extend the experience to some other upcoming artists, because I know what I felt like. Like I've done shows and I've opened, and I've been told like, you can't use these speakers. Only these speakers can be on, and your music can't go past this level, and you can only have a piano player. You can't have, like, I know what that's like. So it was really cool. And even though for the tour, our setup was still minimal, it was just cool to be able to do what I wanted to do. Like, I felt comfortable. This was my squad that I handpicked, and was like, we're going on the road, we're doing these shows. And so it was just really cool to be able to get out there and, execute things the way that I knew I wanted, and the way that I knew my fans would have loved. So yeah, that was amazing.
Wow. So you have any advice for upcoming artists who are struggling right now, or either they want to go to the next level, but may have some issues in, reaching that financial success to like leave their jobs or just do it full time?
Man, that's a tricky one, because I think conviction will always be your biggest determinant, and your conviction won't be mine. So I would always say, meditate heavily on what it is you want to do, and be open to your answers. Pay attention to, your surroundings, and, all of the people around you, and the things that are happening around you. Because I think that, that you'll get intel from those situations, and that's how you'll know how to move. But I think regardless of anything, it's important to just, like I said, do things in motion, because as long as you are, sitting still and deliberating, you're not making any progress. So if nothing else, just keep moving. I think it's important to keep moving.
Okay, last two questions. What do people love most about your music?
One, I think they love the quality of my music, which also taps into the nostalgia of, the quality R&B we grew up listening to and loving. And so, yeah, I think there's a certain intelligence there that my fans tap into, that they appreciate. And another huge thing I think they love about my music is the vulnerability of it, the feel and authenticity, especially coming from a male artist. Because today in music a lot, and in society, it's not even musically based, but men are not, we typically don't express ourselves. The correct space also isn't always facilitated for us to express ourselves either. So I think that, my women listeners appreciate being able to hear a male's perspective, because it may communicate things to them, or decode some things that they don't understand from men that they're dealing with. And then my fellas love it. My male listeners love it, because sometimes I end up expressing exactly how they're feeling, and they didn't know how to say that. So I think I guess what sums it up is relatability. I think that that's what people love about my music.
Wow. So what's next for you? What can people expect?
More music. I may or may not be putting out a little Christmas surprise, and more shows, going back on the road. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for 2023. That's all I can say. But there'll be a lot more opportunities to see me live around the world, and more music and collaborations.
Awesome. Can you tell the world where they can find and connect with you at?
Yes. So if you're online, Kenny Got Soul across all platforms: Instagram, Twitter. Kenyon Dixon on Facebook. Also Kenyon Dixon on your favorite DSP, whether you listen to Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, Amazon. Just type in Kenyon Dixon, and the R&B you love is right there.
Awesome. What Keyshawn said, come on, Christmas surprise. That's amazing. I see nothing but great things. Thank you so much for your time. I always say, time is the one thing we never get back. So I definitely don't take for granted you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the show today. I'm sure people got a lot of value and nuggets and wisdom, and look forward to you coming to DC. Please let me know so I can get the word out to my folks here. So we can all come see you and sell out the show. And thank you again, Kenyon. I see great things for you. Keep doing your thing.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. See you later.
Later.